All right, well, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. So happy to see everyone today. Thank you for joining. Before we get into any of it, I want to introduce Cuca Silva. She's our interpreter who's joined us today, and she's going to provide some directions for those who may need interpretation, and then we'll jump in.
Great. This message is bilingual and it will be repeated in English. Hola, yo soy Cuca Silva y seré su intérprete en esta reunión. Para facilitar el acceso lingüístico, se proporcionará interpretación simultánea entre inglés y español. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada. Si usted no es bilingüe, tendrá que escoger el idioma en el que desea escuchar la interpretación. Si está usando una computadora, verá un icono de globo en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Haga clic ahí y seleccione español. Si está usando la aplicación de Zoom en un iPad o el teléfono, busque el menú de 3 puntos en la parte superior de su pantalla y haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y elija español. Y por último, finalizar. Les recordamos a los oradores que hablen uno a la vez y a paso moderado. Hello, I am Cuca Silva and I will be your interpreter for this meeting.
Lady.
I think she's in the Spanish channel right now, so
Okay.
she's saying the message in English. Sorry, it was my fault.
No worries, no worries.
But we're ready.
You're good, Cuca. Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, well, we're grateful to hear your work, Cuca. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name's Quinn Brady. I'm the project director with Uplift Coalition, and I'm joined by a great team of people who I'm going to get to introduce in just a second. But I wanted to let you know that we are going to record this meeting for those who were not able to join, and we'll be sending that out along with the slide deck that we shared today and some Q&A that we're going to put together, a Q&A document of questions that are asked today so that we can make sure to help others who might not be able to be here with any questions that are coming up. I am really happy to get this time to talk about this big next step in the Uplift project. So today we're going to do a super quick kind of overview of what Uplift is, which I think most people here have been engaged already in some way and are pretty aware. And then a really quick overview of what the community-based contracting consists of, and then mostly spend time answering questions that are coming up for you and make sure we have space for that. If you have joined for a specific question and your question gets answered, feel free to hop off. This is very flexible. Otherwise, stay the whole time and we'll be here for the full hour to answer questions. I'm joined by some team members from Uplift Coalition, Lady Frede, from project manager, Angelique Durden, who helps us in all of the things and makes it all happen. Celeste Baird and Denise Silva from MBEP, who are really leading community engagement in the northern part of our region, and Monica Estrella from the EDC, who's the southern part of the region, and she's our fiscal agent and knows all things finances and contracts, and we'll be here to help answer any questions that might be specific to that area of the contract. With that, I'm going to just ask you to keep your questions until we kind of go through this next few slides, and then we'll turn to you for questions. If you want to, in the next over the next couple minutes, use the chat to just introduce yourself, where you're coming from, what your organization is, so that we can get to know all of you and who's here. That would be great. Feel free to also use the chat for questions. Lady and Angelique are going to be helping answer questions there in real time, or voice them as we have once we get to the question and answer portion. Okay, with that, I am going to turn to Lady to do a brief overview of what SURF is and what we're creating here together.
Thank you, Queen, and thank you all for being here today. This is our Uplift Coalition, Central Coast Coalition. We are a group of 3 organizations that are working together towards economic development and economic opportunities for all in Central Coast, California. Monterey Bay is the co-convener, and they are serving Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey counties. EDC is our fiscal agent and co-convener, and is serving Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. And REACH is our regional convener and co-convener, serving San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. We received 129 letters of support provided at the beginning of this when we were applying for this grant. We're 3 organizations, economic development organizations, and we are serving 6 counties. Next slide. SURF is the grant that allows us to be here today and create this movement of organizations working towards economic development. And it's an unprecedented investment and partnership between the state of California and regions to create new opportunities between regions, communities, and individuals. Our goals are to uplift our residents and our regional economy, to build a regional plan that invests in strategies and projects, create opportunities that meet communities where they are, and grow sustainable industries, diversify regional economies, and improve equitable access to high-quality jobs. And that's why we are all together today. So next to Quinn, and she's going to talk about the scope of work of the grant.
Yeah, thanks, Lady. So as Lady's saying, our work really is to come together around a planning table, build a different kind of table that's really informed and led by community voices. We as Uplift are here in partnership with all the organizations that will be joining us in this work, our committee members, and the state, as we look to create a plan that addresses barriers to economic opportunity across our region. These community-based contracts exist to make sure that we're pulling in voices that are partners. Many of you, hopefully, organizations that have been long doing work in our community already have established relationships with and are really in touch with the needs and the solutions that already exist and the work of the voices of our community. So the contracts will be awarded. We opened for 30 contracts, as you probably know, 15 in the northern part of the region, which is Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey County, and 15 in the south, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County. And when those contracts, 15 in each area, will really be looking to have broad geographical representation. We won't have all 15 in San Luis Obispo County. It'll be to account for that full southern region, making sure that we're meeting different populations in different areas of the geographic scope, as well as meeting different demographics and needs of the community. Our goals are kind of, I'll go through these 4 areas. We're going to be conducting general outreach and engagement in partnership with organizations that we contract with. That'll be to gather demographic information that helps represent the community members who exist in our region, and distribute project information, and then conduct other types of engagement like surveys, canvassing, outreach. Will really look to you as organizations that are awarded these contracts to partner with us and let us know how we can best reach these communities. So maybe some areas it will be canvassing, and others it will be some surveys. A big component will be hosting some listening sessions or roundtables, small. Maybe it's in a home, or maybe it's in a community center, wherever it is best for you to meet your constituencies and the community members that your organization serves. We're going to be, the real hope of that is that we and eventually also create a more connected Central Coast where we promote relationships and meeting the needs and developing solutions together. We'll be providing the types of questions and the learnings that we need from those sessions and developing that with our committees. But we'll be providing questions and resources to contracted organizations, but looking to you to really help facilitate those conversations. We will be hosting a facilitation training, which will be for 1 to 2 staff or members of each organization that we contract with will be required to attend that facilitation training. And that's really to make sure that we're all on the same page about hosting safe, supportive conversations, making sure that we're able to make those meaningful for the attendees, as well as learn what we need to help inform the strategies and the roadmap and the types of projects that we'll be eventually looking to create and fund through this work. We will also be supporting eligible participants with inclusivity funding, which looks like $100 gift card for attending a meeting. So that is really a tool to help incentivize participation for historically excluded communities and those who would not otherwise be able to participate. So it does not mean that every person that you have come to a listening session gets $100 for attending. There are clear eligibility requirements, and it's really for people who would otherwise not be able to participate, are those who would be given that funding through the Inclusivity Fund. So that is resourced from Uplift Coalition outside of the grant. We facilitate that funding in partnership with you. We would then be turning to help you as those who we contract with to help socialize the findings and the Uplift reports. So you would be sharing back findings and roadmaps and things that we develop and the strategies that we come up with collaboratively to those community members who helped inform it. That's really important for us, is to make sure that that information, what we heard, goes back and lives with the communities, so that we're able to say, this is what we heard, this is what we took away, here's the roadmap that's being developed. Is this right? Does it meet the needs? Are we missing anything? And so we'll be looking to you once we've hosted those information gathering times to also go back and make sure that solutions and some of the pathways are owned by the community that helped inform it. We're going to be looking to you to collect input about those learnings and really have shared ownership on the time and the input that we move forward with. And you'll share Uplift content and opportunities as there are opportunities potentially for funding or collaboration in the future. We'll look to you to help socialize that and share it back with the communities that you're connected with and serving within your organization. We will also, we'll have a lot of coordination and collaboration with the project team. You'll work with us on proposing the nature, the types of meetings, and really make sure that we're all on the same page about what's being created. We'll be deferring to you as community groups, knowing what your community members need, and also really making sure that there's a structure to it so that we make sure we're able to report and be accountable to the dollars that we receive from the state to be able to host this. So some of that will require registration for attendees. Your attendees can register themselves, or you can register them. We'll really try to make that as flexible as possible so that we're able to work with you on the needs of your constituency. But we'll have to check some of those boxes to make sure we're able to kind of to track the progress and report back on our findings. So that'll look like having a monthly check-in with the Uplift project team, some of our community engagement leads in your area, myself and Lady, so that we can support you, get feedback about what's working and what's not, and make the shifts that are necessary to make it a meaningful experience. We will also be looking to you to produce a report summarizing your findings and the methods used. We're really flexible on what that report looks like. We want to work with you, knowing that different organizations have different capacity and ways of going about these things. So we'll be really flexible in the structure of that, but it'll be something that will help. We'll invite you to come to our steering committee meetings to share about those findings and the work that you did with committee members and the Uplift team, and then include those reports that you put together in your progress and findings in what we submit back to the state. Next one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the funding in general, and then I'm going to turn to Monica, who's going to share some more of the details. But as I mentioned, there'll be 30 contracts across the region. We are really encouraging collaboration in this. The contracts will be $15,000 maximum, but there is we encourage, and there's nothing to say that you can't, as an organization in Santa Barbara County, work with and collaborate with another organization in Santa Barbara County, and both apply for the contract, and then pool some of those resources to work together and host things together, or develop your outreach strategies together. We're just going to be really making sure that we're reaching different constituencies and pockets of our communities. The funding can cover items such as staff salary, venue rentals, materials and supplies that are required for listening sessions and engagement, marketing materials, interpretation services if required, and any kind of refreshments that you might want to support your community with during convenings or those listening sessions, and then any small purchases of technical equipment that might be needed to support you. Our team is also really willing to come and attend and help talk about the project, and we'll lean in as much as we can on any of the sessions that you're hosting. We hope that we can join as many that would feel supportive to your organization. A little bit about the timeline. As you know, probably the proposals are due on September 11th. It's a 30-day window of that application period. It might feel a little bit quick, and some of that is because our grant is very quick, and so we have to really move on this next phase of the project and give some time to organizations to start engaging communities, and then us to be able to return those findings and integrate it into the next steps of our plan. Once we receive those proposals, we will be taking the next couple weeks to review all of those in partnership with our committee members, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and announce those that have received the community-based contracts the first week of October. We'll spend the next 30 days or so developing contracts with each of the organizations, which is where Monica will really come in, and you'll work closely with myself and Lady and Monica during that time to make sure everything is lined up. And once those contracts, we'll kind of be churning those through to get 30 out the door to everybody, and we'll begin work in November. November to April is that implementation phase where we'll be asking you to host those conversations or facilitate a survey or canvass some historically excluded, disinvested, underserved neighborhoods, whatever your plan is that feels right for your organization and to meet your constituency. And then the end of April is when that final report is due. There's some additional dates that were in the RFP that include once that final report from you is received, we take that back to our committees and to the Uplift team, and we integrate that and those learnings into the roadmap and the suggested pathways for our next step of the implementation of the overall SURF process. And then we'll be looking to you in the months of May, June, July, and August, that are the last kind of phase of the contract, to help circulate that information back to community, answer questions, and kind of be a partner with us in communicating back to the constituency that your organization serves. I wanted to touch on this really briefly. This is about the selection process for contracts. Applications are going to be reviewed by our regional steering committee. The committee is representative of SURF's stakeholders, which are those kind of 12 constituency groups as defined by the Community Economic Resilience Fund, or SURF, as the priority groups. We went through a open nomination process, which many of you were aware of during that time, and we have 24 committee members across the region. They will be the ones reviewing all of the applications that come in, all the proposals, and selecting the awardees. We will be making sure, as I mentioned earlier, that not all awardees are grouped just targeting one population or one county, but that there's broad geographic distribution, and really serving different needs and different constituencies, different areas of our communities. Applications will be evaluated on criteria including capacity to facilitate the project, if bilingual staff are needed, a geographic scope, project timeline. Our application that we developed for all of you, which I think Lady might have already put in the chat, or I'll ask her to, the full RFP and the application, both English and Spanish. We designed it to be really low burden. There's only a handful of questions. I think it's about 5, and then a budget area. We are not expecting a 30-page application or even a 10. This is really just a couple pages demonstrating the area of the community that you serve, how you'll go about the work, what you see the priorities are, and high-level proposal of how you would use the budget that's available. With that, I am going to kick it to Monica, who's just going to talk a little bit about how the funding would be distributed.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Yes, this, as Quinn stated earlier, this is a very quick process. And it's wonderful to see so many folks interested and on this call. But as you can imagine, going through and creating and implementing and then managing 30 contracts is going to be quite a task for the team and I. So one of the first things I'd like to say is, if we come back and ask for any paperwork, please get it sent in as soon as possible. The way this is going to work is you will be working with Quinn and Lady and the Uplift team to develop a scope to go through, make sure that everybody is on the same page about what is required of them, what the backup documentation is needed to get paid. I believe we're going to supply an invoice for you, so those will all look the same. And so that we can move through these 3 phases pretty quick. So with any luck, we will have all of these contracts completed and executed in the month of November. That's my goal, is to try to get everything onboarded and the contracting done in November so that you can go ahead and get started. And what we have done is, to get you started, we are going to allow for an $8,000 advance. So basically you will be billing us for this $8,000 deposit after the contract is signed, and you will be able to get that money upfront so you can start implementing the convening sessions that come along with the contract. So from November to February is the implementation phase, all the way through to, it was April, correct, Quinn? Yes. So
Okay.
that's going to be the bulk of the work, and the end result will end up in your, whatever your report looks like, back to Quinn. So after you get that turned in, you'll be receiving another $5,000 to be able to move forward with whatever you need moving forward. And then the last disbursement is going to be $2,000 at the end of August. So this will be to cover expenses for getting out there into the community and actually presenting the findings that we have had through all of these convening sessions. So it's a pretty simple contract. They're all going to be basically the same. Any variations will be from you working with Quinn, but we're going to try to keep them all pretty close to each other, pretty much the same. If you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me or Quinn. Either one of us can answer most of these. But I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and looking forward to this effort, this final effort in getting out there to those communities that historically we haven't been able to reach. And you community-based organizations are going to help us do that. So really appreciate it. Look forward to working with you. And I'll turn it back over to Quinn.
Thanks, Monica. I am going to take my screen down, and we're going to open to some questions. And I see that there's a few in the chat already. And so Monica, since you were just sharing, I'm going to turn to you for a question from Diversity Coalition. Is November when the contract is signed and funds just distributed, or will there be a lag between the invoicing and the funding? And then in general, what will that lag be when, what's going to be the turnaround when an organization sends an invoice? How quickly will we be able to distribute funds to make sure that that's not a barrier for smaller organizations?
Our terms are 30 days usually, but we will try to get it turned around much quicker than that. Standard turnaround time for us is usually about a week to 2 weeks. So you should be getting the funds very quickly after the contract has been executed.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. I think there's a couple other in the chat that people are chiming in on, but let's open it to questions. If you just want to raise your hand, I will call on folks that I see in order. While people are thinking of questions, what is a sample scope of work, expected number of community members engaged, presentations, etc.? Yeah, thanks for the question, Jose. We are really looking to you. We, in the beginning, just we were thinking about saying, oh, every organization needs to engage 200 community members, but we really recognize that every organization has different strengths and different sizes of populations. There might be some populations that are much harder to reach in an organization that is really good at reaching that. And the population might be 100 people versus organizations that are serve a broader population and might be able to easily reach 500. So I think we're just really flexible in what that looks like. And we're looking to you to tell us the story of if it's 100 people, why it is and why those 100 people will take the amount of time and attention that it requires. So we're looking to you and really hoping that you can kind of co-create that scope. And same with the presentations. I imagine each organization will do a couple, 2 to 5 listening sessions, but it could be 10 if you serve a larger population. I imagine that you'll do some type of survey or questionnaire. I imagine that it might take canvassing in some areas, and there might not be as many of those listening sessions because it might really take going door to door in a community that's harder to reach, but not every community will be like that. So it's very flexible. We're hoping that you can kind of demonstrate to us in your scope of work why you would do it the way that you are suggesting. And LaWanda.
Good morning and thank you. I see that the requirement is that you be a C3 or have a fiscal sponsor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who said that?
Uplift Coalition. I'll let Monica speak to a little bit of the requirements on that piece.
So when we put this RFP out, that's how we listed it, was the 501c3s. That's certainly something because it is social benefit, I guess. That's something that we can discuss with you, but that's something that we'll have to bring up to a larger group within Uplift.
Okay, thank you, because all NAACP branches are C4s. And we don't do any work around any political work. We're nonpartisan. And that is set by our national office. And so we're all C4s, while the national has a C4 and a C3. But all of our work is really C3 work.
Yeah, thank you for surfacing that. I'm glad to know that, and that was not something that I knew. If you will put your email in the chat, or you can direct message it to me if you don't want to share it broadly, but we will have a little bit of a conversation about that and follow up with you directly. Thanks, LaWanda. Shakira.
Thank you. And there are a couple of more presidents on here also.
Okay.
That would be interested in knowing that. Ventura and Santa Barbara.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Anybody that, we can, maybe that'll be something we address broadly in the follow-up we're going to send out after this. We will send out a Q&A document about some of the questions that we've been hearing and answers to that. So we'll include that in there. But if anybody wants a direct connection on that answer specifically, you can message Lady or myself, and we'll make sure to capture that. Okay, sorry, Shakira, back to you.
Thank you, Quinn. And I just want to build on what LaWanda is lifting up. And this is why this input gathering component to such a unique moment in not to be hyperbolic, but not just our nation's history, but our state's history with getting such funding opportunity as SURF is the complexity moving forward. If we're building a resilient economy, and therefore communities, we are in a different paradigm in many ways. So what do I mean by that? Something to lift up are not just, not to minimize, but as well as C4s, there are C5s, C19s. So C5s are unions, for example. And so, and then C19s are military veterans. So military veteran organizations that can, and all of these different types of C groups, C4, C5 and on, the intent is to be able to provide a tax receipt and to be able to obviously organize in order to pursue their ultimate mission, right? So this might change, for example, SBC Fan's strategy around mobilization, because what we were hoping to do were to encourage many, many, many different groups, because the food system obviously is broad from production to consumption, and $15,000 you can only do so much with, right? And we want to do it well. And we're so incredibly excited and inspired and encouraged by Uplift. I mean, I really believe this is a model that can be iterated across the country after we're all done with this, in terms of the intention. Even, I mean, every from end to end and all that I heard in this slide deck, what intention every step of the way, that seems common sense, but actually our institutions and other grant making channels have not made these adjustments. So I cannot praise you enough. In addition, as we continue to iterate in these transformative times, I really hope that there can be a greater conversation and in quick turnaround, right? Because I understand you guys want to stay within your timeline around the inclusion. Otherwise, think about the immense pressure and expectation on C3s within community-based organizations then to galvanize. I mean, then suddenly I'm looking at, okay, I'm not just looking at food system workers and business owners. I'm, you know, on and on and on. Teachers, I could go on. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate both of you lifting that up. Thank you for expanding, Shakira. I'm so glad that this is surfacing, and we'll take some time for sure in the next 48 hours to see what we can find on this. I'll work with Monica. Part of, just like for full clarity, like part of us, we draw down this funding from the state, and then we're making a second grant out into the community. So we have some restrictions on how that funding can be used, which is what makes some of the funding travel or reimbursing travel tricky. And there's different components. So our question will go to our fiscal agent and to the state, and we'll circle back as soon as possible on that, and then make sure it's included in the frequently asked question document. And again, anybody that wants a direct contact on some of that, we're happy to do as well.
And I'll jump in here and stick my neck out, Quinn, because our whole purpose of getting the community-based organizations involved was not necessarily to silo them into an IRS designation. What we're looking for is the benefit and the connections out into the community. And I am unaware of anything in the contract that would prevent us from moving forward with such organizations. I will have to run it up the line and find out, just to be on the safe side. And then Quinn will have to discuss it amongst the folks over in Uplift. But moving forward, I don't see that being a problem from contractual perspectives. So
thanks, Monica.
Shakira and the NAACP, we want that kind of participation. And you're absolutely right. There's processes that are in place that have been in place forever from, you know, government organizations that have prevented that kind of involvement. So
thank you. One of the tricky components of this is that the state asked us to come out and to facilitate this SURF process and do it really differently. And they are very still used to doing facilitating grants in the same way that it's always been done, and in systems that might not actually serve the outcome of this. And so they are adapting and we are adapting. And so I really appreciate you continuing to hold us accountable to the heart and the intent of it. And, you know, being patient and flexible in it with us, as well as we push on them and push back into community for to get to the heart of what we're trying to do. So thank you for that. It sounds like there might be a easy shift there to create some more opportunity. Other questions or anything that Lady, Celeste, Denise, you've been hearing that you want to lift up, or things from the chat?
Yeah, there's another question from Ken Smith. Hi, Ken. Will CBOs who don't choose to apply for a grant still play a role and have an opportunity to organize community gatherings or brief the community on the final roadmap?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, good question. Hi, Ken. Yes, there will still be opportunities. So we'll be looking to the community-based organizations to lead in their communities. So there will be opportunity for organizations to collaborate with those that have received a contract to host some of those things. So it might be one organization in your area, Ken, is contracted, or a couple are, and some of the other organizations lean in and collaborate with them. If there are pockets or constituencies and areas that there is not a contract, or that there's a demographic that has been isn't being met and served by one of those contracts, Uplift will, that's where we will be really spending our time to lean in and facilitate and host some of those listening sessions in areas where there might not be a contract, or let's say that there's a contract that's really getting to the heart of the immigrant and undocumented population in San Benito and in Ventura, but there is not one more in the middle, then that's a space that we will really be leading in. So I think it'll just be seeing where the contracts land and then looking to organizations for partnership to make sure that we're really broadly filling in the gaps. So there won't be additional resources outside of the contracts to fund other organizations to do the work, but we will certainly be able to host roundtables and listening sessions in partnership with organizations or community members outside of contracting.
And there's another question from Lata Murthy. Hi, Lata. If you find from the RFPs that two organizations in the same area apply for funding for listening sessions with the same or similar historically excluded groups, would you put us in touch with each other to collaborate? How might funding work in this case?
Love that question. I had a conversation a little bit about this yesterday too. Absolutely. So we will be doing our best to help organizations, anybody that is applying or that we're hearing from, connect with each other. So one thing I will just recommend right away, Lady is here as project manager serving the whole region, and also really helping in supporting community engagement deeply in the southern part of the region. Celeste is here. She is the community engagement manager for the northern part of the region. I'm going to have each of you and Shelby put your contact information in right now into the chat. Shelby is here from the southern part of the region. She's really leaning in and supporting community engagement in the southern region. And so if you're considering applying, if you want support, if you need technical assistance, if you're like wondering how to connect with other organizations, please reach out to them in those respective areas so that we can help make those connections for you. And if we do receive applications from multiple organizations, we're happy to connect you. And then once contracts are awarded, we will absolutely be connecting for best practices, ways that we can support each other, ways that we can collaborate. Lata, I don't know what area you're in serving, but if there's someone else in your area that you might be able to do a co-facilitated listening session with at some point too, we'll let you lean in and just kind of decide how you want to facilitate that, but we'll help make the connections. We definitely support collaboration.
And as far as how the funding would work, that would be dependent on how the scope is written. So that's something that you would work out with the Uplift team and Quinn. Yeah, thank you. The only caveat to that is that we wouldn't be providing contracts for more than 15,000. So the contracts themselves will be 15,000, but you would be able to absolutely write that you are collaborating with another organization who is also looking to receive a contract. Elisa, is there an expected or recommended amount how budget is divided between categories? There's really not. Thank you for the question. We're really looking to you. Some organizations need more support on staffing in order to get the work done. Others have staffing available and don't need budget covered on staff. And what we've heard is they don't have a venue. And so they would have to have venue rentals, or that it would be really important to have a food truck there to make sure people and childcare available. And so those organizations those are the needs there. So every organization is different. We thought about making recommendations, but again, wanted to leave it really flexible. If you're struggling in creating the budget for your work, we're happy to have a conversation and see if we can support you as you think through that. Any other questions coming up for people?
Yeah.
Or things that you would like to see addressed? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Lat is asking to remind them what counties or major cities each region. So the northern region is Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterrey, and the southern region is San Luis Obispo, Ventura, and Santa Barbara. And we're trying to reach out to everyone, not only major cities, but everyone in the region. Especially hard to reach geography people. Like we did one listening session in New Guyama, and those are the places that usually they're not invited to have these type of conversations. So that's one example. It's not for everyone, but yeah. Northern Benito, Santa Cruz, and Monterrey, and South San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's making me think of something else that I'm going to mention. I just put our website in the chat, which in about 3 weeks from now, it'll be a completely different website. We're building a really exciting website that we're looking forward to sharing with everyone, with the fully rebranded. It's very colorful and interactive and has a lot of resources. So I want you to know that that would also be a resource if you want to host public events in your area with this contract. We can list any listening sessions and events that are happening, whether they are closed or public. You can have something where you just list that it's happening in your area and somebody that, contact information for people that are interested, or we could have a registration on there for people to register. We're happy to share that information. We'll also have social media channels that will help tell the story and spread information. The website tells a much better story about what we're doing and why it matters and why it's different than traditional economic planning processes. The current website has a lot of that information. It has who the members of our steering and vision committee are, which I would encourage you to go and look at and see who in your area is already engaged and involved, and ways that you might be able to collaborate with those folks already. But I want you to know that that is a component that's coming that we will be able to support you with. We'll have a template for a slide deck if that's something that you like to use when you reach people, a template for a flyer and things like that. So we'll have some great materials that will be able to help you, provide you with some templates for you to use as you want, if you want those. Other questions from anyone? Seeing nothing. So in the chat we have the website. There's the contact information for both Shelby and Celeste and Lady, all three. So please reach out if things are coming up for any of you. I welcome you to reach out to me as well. We're really happy to spend as much time as needed to support you in this process over the next couple weeks. Following this meeting in the next couple days, probably most likely Monday, we will send out a recording of this, the deck that we used today, and a Q&A document that will be a live document, so that you can check back for any other questions. If we get a question from you or somebody else in the next couple of weeks, we'll add it there so that there's a space that we can really transparently share any of the information. But look forward to you reaching out to us, I hope, and hopefully receiving applications from you and getting to partner with you in the work. I'm going to hang on for a couple minutes, you feel free to hop off, but if anybody has other questions, our team will stay for a few more minutes. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining.